Hey everyone, today's sermon night, and it's gonna follow a different format than usual. I want to talk in particular about one thing in particular, which is society's welfare. And what I mean by society's welfare, I mean literally welfare, governmental welfare. I mean, most countries out there have some form of it. Either some countries they give you the money directly, others they send supplies, they send food to the poorest areas. In the North Americas, we're especially blessed with being able to get given actual money so we can decide what we want, how we want it, and move where we want to or can afford, which is barely anywhere, but still, that is an option. Where does this concept come from? Like this, good morning, Vix. So where does this concept come from? From welfare. I mean, this is asking for a lot, especially in the current political climate. Of you're asking for our money. Why are you asking for our money? Why are you taking tax money and giving it to people that are not working? Is what I hear quite often. And the reality for that is very simple. It's been like that for a very long time. It's not new. It's something that's been around for over 6,000 years. And I'll get into that. I'll explain that. It's been there for a long, long time. Nations have realized a long time ago, if they don't feed their people, be it the poor or those that had a disaster happen or something like that, they lose a very important resource, which is the people. Even the Romans, okay, everyone studied at one point when they went to school. At one point, they studied Roman history. Even if it was touching it in class, in history class for an hour, or even if it was a whole semester, everyone touched it. Did you guys know that in Roman times they discovered today from Roman times artifacts, and what I mean by these artifacts, these were ledgers or governmental orders that the Roman Senate drafted to make sure it becomes reality. Part of those they found in some of the tablets, orders of how to feed the poor. So they had huge areas of the city that there was no rent cost. All the houses were built by the Roman Senate. So the Roman legionnaires, more than likely. But every house was built there. The government, so Rome, would actually send them food every month. They hired the farmers at the outside fields as full time employment of all they're doing is growing wheat and growing rice. I think they were doing mainly stuff like rice, onions, and beans, and stuff that lasts a long time, and they're able to mass produce. Those were mainly the stuff that they were doing. But they were hiring these farmers to mass produce these things to go and feed the poorest of the people, the infirm, the old, the young, the disabled and the infirm is the same thing. They would take all of that and they would help these people. No judgment, no saying, oh, you didn't work all your life, you don't deserve it. Or I don't like your face. Your face is ugly. You ain't getting my money. You ain't getting food. We don't want food. No, 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 you're out. We don't like you. None of that. You're a Roman citizen. You're fed. Done. You have enough money to pay it for yourself? You're good. You're good to go. You don't have money for it? Don't worry. There's houses, there's food. We'll take care of you. Now, sure, if you're an able-bodied person and you're between jobs, maybe you might get drafted by the army or something like that, but not necessarily. It was a right of every Roman citizen to get free food if they needed it. It was the right of every Roman citizen to have house that they wanted. And this was 2,000 years ago, guys. This was even before Jesus Christ. This even was after Jesus Christ. There's tons of records of this. There's records of orders of them hiring more farmers, of even importing stuff from other countries. There's records of them moving those areas around, the slums. Because really, that's what it is, let's be honest. You're not going to live in a palace. But still. And it goes further back. It keeps going, where does this concept come from? It keeps going back and back and back. And you look after that at, the founding of Rome in the early days. And they found some artifacts of that, some orders. And, when they were founding and all of that. They were lugging around disabled members of the tribe. Why would they bring it to a disabled person? They weren't able to feed themselves. They weren't able to bring anything to the clan. They weren't able to the tribe at the time. They weren't able to do anything. They weren't able to fight. But they showed honor. And they still included them. And they fed them. It is a society's duty to take care of its poor, of its disabled, of its old, and of its young. Not the parent, the society. And it's been like that for thousands of years. It's a very novel concept in the scope of humanity, that parents raise the children alone. It used to always be the community. It always be helping each other because they needed to. Now, of course, even back then, there was people that were against this. There's some people that didn't want to share. But that's still what the community would do. In ancient times, in Egypt, 2,000 years before Jesus Christ, 2,000, even they had a concept. I mean, even in the Bible, like, you all read or heard about Exodus. Moses going around, and then in the Exodus, the water's parting, and let my people go. And then all the various events that would happen. We all read or saw the movie or know about this. Even back then, they would take in foreigners. Oh, the foreigners aren't able to feed themselves. They don't have a room to live in. They don't have a home. They generously gave land. And they said, this land is your land to use. Build your homes. Gather food. Here are some animals to get you started. Here's some grain to get you started. Oh, that doesn't work out? Well, let's help you again. Let's help you again. Till it works. And even in this Egyptian time, their elders, they were taking care of them. Their infirm, they were taking care of them. Their young, they were taking care of them. Outsiders even got taken care of. Let's go back even further than the ancient Egyptian times. Let's go look at ancient Israelites. 3,000 years ago. Almost 4,000 years ago. Before Christ. That's 6,000 years ago. Even they had in their field that every 7th year you would maintain your field as normal. But you would not pick up the food. That food is for the community. It's for those in the community that don't have enough for themselves. They can't feed themselves for whatever reason. They just arrived. They're from a different community. They're too old, so they're getting some neighbors getting together, gathering some food for them to feed them, so that they can be fed for that year. But that's every single farmer, and they would alternate, obviously, which year, so it's not all the farmers at the same time doing this. Every 7th year, they would give their whole field all their food, 100% of it, every 7th year. They would give it to the community. Every seventh year. Imagine working for 7 years. And on the seventh year, 100% of your paycheck went to them. To the poor, to the disabled, to the old, to the young, to the community, in other words. Those that are unable to do it themselves or to feed themselves. Imagine your whole income for that year. That means that for those 6 previous years, you had to save up money. You had to save up food. You had to save up everything. So on that 7th year, you pick nothing for yourself. Everything giving. Now it goes more than that. As if that wasn't enough. Like, wow, guys. Everything. Once every 7 years. But there's more. 1/10 of their fields, they would not maintain, they would maintain, but they won't go and pick up from. Why? It's called gleaming. The concept is you let these areas around your field, okay, so the area that goes from the field to usually the forest or the plain or whatever, okay, so 1/10 of your land around there, so a big circle around there, and you let the poor come and serve themselves. And this is anyone. This is the poor, the beggars, those that are sick, that are disfigured, that are too old, that are too, that just arrived. Anyone that can't feed themselves, it's free for anyone. And you don't even need to be a citizen. Anyone could have done that on Israelite lands. I mean, we could have come from North America for some reason and managed to do the travel 6,000 years ago, and we could have arrived there, and the Israelites would have went, oh yeah, there's food all around. Look, we're growing tons of food. We're growing grapes, seeds, weeds, this and that, and potatoes and corn. I don't know what they were growing, but they could have been growing all of those things. And they're just, yes, serve yourself. Anything at the outer ledges of the farmland. Anything at the last 10th. And then after that, they took that concept and they went, well, we're doing this. And the temple is also taking care of people. We're good. We're having multiple people helping. So not only is a community of every year of having that gleaming practice, so all the poor can serve themselves. Every 7th year, they donate everything to the people. And plus of that, they're still paying their 10% tax to the temple. Because this was commanded by God for them to do. So they still took that money and gave it to the temple. And what did the temple do with it? Well, the temple fed themselves, of course. They fed the people that would come to the temple. And they would do outreach to the poor. They would go and redistribute some of the wealth to make sure that everyone has enough. They would make sure to take some of that stockpile and to save it for the people. Maybe for the next year. But everything around in their life was about blessing others, and no one batted an eye. Oh yeah, I gotta give this year my whole field to the poor. No one blinks an eye. In fact, they saw it as a badge of honor. Some of them actually did it more often than once every 7 years because they thought that it blessed them. And it wasn't a wrong thought. It was the right thought, because those that did do it, we see that they were blessed. These are the most well-off people usually that are doing this. Well, how are they staying well off if they're giving away everything every few years? I mean, completely free of charge. No charge whatsoever. You don't even need to do anything. You just go serve yourself. That's the only thing. Only thing. But yet, they still stayed rich and powerful. Because the Lord wants you to be rich and powerful. But you got to be rich and powerful and help out your neighbor. Jesus did not stutter when he told us what to do. He said, one, love your God. Two, love your neighbor. He did not stutter. He didn't tell us except when. He didn't say to your best of your abilities, to the most that you feel like it, only on Wednesday. He didn't say any of that. He said, love your God, love your neighbor. Nothing else. You're good to go. That's what you need to do. And that is inside welfare of societies. That's inside our laws. That's inside our culture. And slowly, as the culture is going away from these beliefs of, hey, we're going to sacrifice everything. And they're going away from God. And they're going away from what is righteous. And they're going away from the past. And they're changing everything. Well, the further that they go, the more corrupt it gets. The less you have to help out your neighbor, the more you're helping yourself out. Isn't that what many of our politicians are doing? They're helping themselves out. Are they out helping you, me and you? Some are. But are they all? But why? Why are they doing this? Well, the culture no longer values helping each other out. It's now about helping you. It's about being able to present well. It's about having the nice, shiny, nice words. It's about being forgiving. It's about all those other things. And yes, forgiving is good. But it has to be based on righteousness. It has to be for the right reasons. So if it worked for 6,000 years, so many great empires had it. I mean, even Greek, Alexander the Greek, I mean, he conquered half the known world at the time. Even he sent offerings back to his lands to help out the poor. He would send out donations. Even he would do it. He was a ruthless conqueror. Great, great, great conquests. But he ruled half the world. And still he did it. So if all these people can do it, let me ask you a simple question. When's the last time you bought a homeless guy a sandwich? When's the last time you bought a homeless person a coffee? When's the last time you walked around and someone begged something of you and you gave them small change? When's the last time you looked through your cupboards and looked what you're not eating and brought it to the food banks? When's the last time you made an offering to the church? When's the last time that you found a friend that you knew that was having a hard time and just went and helped him out? That's what it's about. It's always been about that. We're sadly starting to get away from it, and we think it's right. It's not. Love your God. Love your neighbor. There's no stuttering. Jesus doesn't stutter. Alright guys, let's play some Fortnite. Alright. I'm going to start setting up Fortnite. I have a question for all our viewers. Can you guys give me one example of something today that people could do to help someone out? And it doesn't need to be something expensive. It doesn't have to be something big. A million drops of rain makes a waterfall. You need every single drop of water. The smallest action leads to the biggest change. So can you guys give me one small example of things we could do to help and love our neighbor? I would like to give you guys an example. I started out the stream today. 1 minute before going live, I got a text message from a friend of a friend. And, well, I consider the guy a friend. He's nice. I've went at his place a few times. We went hunting. A really good guy. How did he know? I don't know. But he heard about my previous sermons, and I'm assuming they got sent to him from my other friend, who is a very close friend. He was one of my best men at my wedding and all that. Groomsmen, sorry, at the wedding, and that was many, many years ago. Stayed in touch. We're still good friends and all that. So I'm assuming he saw my sermons, liked it, and sent it to him. But I got a text from him. So completely not expecting it. And this is not usually a guy that's a techie. So it's not his usual style that I would expect him to follow. Yet I still got a text message out of the blue that he watched my sermons and he enjoyed them. That changed my whole day. I mean, that went from, all right, I'm exhausted. We built a large fence, well, large, 45 feet. But we built a fence in the backyard so the kids can play. I'm exhausted today. All right, let's get the sermon done. All right, I'm about ready to go. And then I get that text. I was exhausted at that point. But that text changed everything. That's a small action that can change someone's world. And it doesn't have to be a financial advantage to change someone's world, to love someone, to love your neighbor. I mean, just doing a nice, simple action like saying, you know what? I watched your video. I liked it. Good job. Didn't hurt him. I mean, he didn't have to pay for liking it. He didn't have to pay for anything. He enjoyed it. And he told me about it. And that was enough to change my day because I wasn't expecting to have reached that far yet. It was great. And stuff like that is what you need to make a great community. And this community, by the way, this general